Okay, boys and girls, this is the cooling update part 2. The box that you're looking at there is from Dakota Digital, and that is a fan controller. It has the option of 1-speed fan, 2 fans, or a 2-speed fan. In this case, we're talking about a 2-speed fan. So those are all the wire connections that are hooked up to it, and they come through the firewall, and I just decided to Velcro it there. This jack right here plugs directly into the Dakota Digital dash for the ls3 input to the Dakota dash. I think I showed that to you earlier, which is that's it right there. Okay, and that's the box that I installed for it. So those things are daisy chained together to make them work together in harmony with one another. They get direct readings off of the LS computer, which is right here. I mounted it there at the kick panel, and I've put the transmission computer under the seat. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's right there. Okay, so everything is installed, and I just wanted to give you an update on the cooling and the hoses and everything that I've used to get the factory radiator installed with the cooling system that I'm using. That is a Taurus fan, 2-speed fan, like off of an early 90s Taurus. You can find that on Amazon. It's a stock radiator. I've made mention of that when we first spoke about the cooling the last time. And there's that top hole, and that's where my vent hose is going to the LS intake, which is right there. So it follows over here like this and comes into the radiator. The lower hose that I used was a Gates. They're both Gates, and that's a 20734 hose. Again, it's 20734 lower hose, stock radiator. And the upper hose is a 21837. It had to be cut on both ends, there at the water pump and here at this inlet to the radiator. So that's basically how that worked out. You can see the silver lines down there. That's the lines from the transmission. They're coming to this Durelli temperature sender that basically just turns a fan on whenever it gets hot. When it gets to 85 degrees, it comes on, and when it gets back down to 165 degrees, it comes back on. What I've done is I've ran the transmission lines. I took the catalytic converter heat shield off, and I put the lines up against the floor, put the catalytic heat shield back on, and then I ran these hoses through the line place where the fuel lines went originally, if you can see that. Okay, so they come through there, up over the frame, and then they're coming into here. Okay, to support this fan cooler down here. If you can see that. So that's how I mounted that, and that's a sucker fans, or what they are. It's 19 rows, 630 CFM of cooling. So in order to get the fan to work properly with the Dakota Digital fan controller, you had to have relays and the correct wiring to hook those up. So here's that is. There's the relays. The one on the left would be for the high side. The one on the right is for the low side of the fan, the fast and the slow. And then those are the circuit breakers there. And they are all wired in. As you can see right there, those are the hot wires that are 12 volt that lets it operate. So the relay is what keeps everything good and cool. Then they're coming back to the radiator here. This is where the LS fuse box ended up. That blue wire there is for the stereo system. But I'm using the stock cooling, engine cooling reservoir and the stock radiator. And then I had that custom fan shroud made. So you can see what's going on there. As far as a derailleur switch, this one down here, this is the part number on it. Now if you get on Amazon, you might find that you have some bad reviews on that. But what the problem is with it is I had it was leaking when I first started. That's why I ended up with a second one. But let me get this open real quick. As you can see, that's what it looks like, and it goes, it's an AN6 fitting, and it just screws in. You have to get a double male to screw into that to get your AN line hooked to it. But this part up here, if you can notice, it turns. Well, that's where it was leaking at. So I didn't remove my old one. When I got this one in a box, it looked just like that. So I thought, well, maybe that's where it's leaking. So I took mine apart, cleaned it with some brake clean, and then I used some Loctite and screwed it back down there and used some channel lock pliers to tighten it tight. And my leak went away. So I ended up with an extra one of these. No big deal, but it works great. That's what will keep your temperature from running hot. So it looks like 180 degrees when it turns off, and 100, yeah, activates 180 and turns off at 165. So that enabled me to take the cooling completely away from the radiator. You can see how I blocked that off here. Okay, and again, there's the condenser coming out. That's the condenser off of an 87 Cutlass. That's what's going to allow me to hook up this compressor directly. So this fitting here goes to the bottom of the condenser. The top of the condenser has a metal pipe that comes back and comes and hooks into this pipe fitting here. Where that tape is there, that comes off and it hooks onto this right here. So that's basically real short hoses, and that's how that's going to work. This clamp right here is off of a late model GMC truck to hold those hoses out of the way, and I just mounted it to the bracket there. So that pretty much sums up the cooling. Also, there's always a cooling issue, and there's always a cold air intake issue, and this is what I come up with here. This is my cold air intake. I got this piece off of Amazon, and it's made by Spectre, which is this company here. And it's 18 inches. I had to cut 3 inches off of it in order to be able to get it fit. This I got at AutoZone. These clamps I've got from the same place that I got this 90 degree at, and that was, the name of that place is called Silicone Intakes. Again, it's Silicone Intakes. This is a real heavy duty 4-ply hose. These clamps were real cheap. I think I've got $150 in the whole thing. So and I had an extra piece that I ordered, that another piece of this hose in case I couldn't use this, but want to come directly off. So I had $150 in the whole deal, and it worked out quite nice. I'll show you how it goes on. That's what it looks like on, and then you just put your mass airflow sensor there, and it works fine. It clears everything, but it hits the hood a little bit right here. So no big deal. That all worked out real good. So essentially that's my cooling part 2 and cold air intake. I appreciate everyone viewing my channel and subscribing. You guys have been fantastic. I've tried to answer questions as we go. The next video due will be on the Hydro Boost for the brakes. And again, I appreciate you, and I hope you have a great evening. Thank you.